let's get this underway. Let's close the door. Let's get in the game. Let's watch everything. Alright, so in the upper right-hand corner with the nameplates up and the production tab open, we have Gear in the Rears. I'm Cuddlebear. And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, we have Gear in the Rears OSE. Alright, so just a little bit of a history on this game. I'm Cuddlebear is working on a new build as Terran against a Zerg that is going Roach Hydra. So, oddly enough, me being a Zerg player, I've actually helped I'm Cuddlebear work out this build. So, I mean, you can see in the chat that we're starting to chat back and forth just a little bit. I am live casting this game. Okay, so there's a little bit of chatter going on back and forth. I'll try as hard as I can to not be distracted by it. But, I mean, I'm not promising anything. So there might be a little bit of lag because there are quite a few people that are involved in this game. Just looking at the chat, you can see that there are just quite a few people that are in here. A lot of people from Gear in the Rear. There are a few people from Bubble and whatnot. Anyway, a few different clans that are involved at the moment. But like I said, this is a new TvZ style build. And it should be, hopefully, more Widowmine and Hellbat based, which, I mean, not terribly surprising, but with the new, well, nerfs, if you can call them that, to the Hellbat, it should work pretty well even with that, but we'll find out. We'll see how it all goes. So I don't want to give away too much of this build. We'll see how it works out. We'll see if he even sticks to it. But, I mean, if it works, if it's the same build that we were just working on, if he decides that he's going to roll with that, or if he defaults, it depends on whether or not this is going to get uploaded. So anyway, pretty standard opening right now. He is going for the Reaper, which will slow down his factory just slightly. But he's got the Reaper here. It's going to help him scout out quite a bit because, I mean, if we look down here, he's totally blind at this moment. And so he's going to send that Reaper out instead of sending an SCV. So that's just an adjustment that he's going to make. We're going to play with it a little bit. We're going to see how this build goes and whether or not he wants to continue with this style. But like I said, pretty standard opening here. It's a pretty standard Reaper opening anyway. Don't know what that was getting lifted up for, but he's going to go ahead and go for a second Reaper, which personally I think that it would be better if he decided to go for the factory now instead of going for that second Reaper. That second Reaper just is a very aggressive style attack, and I mean, he does want to know if his opponent is going for any sort of an aggressive play, but we've already kind of set up a few parameters here. He wants him to go Roach Hydra as his focus. So what he needs to scout for here is if it's going to be like a Roach Bane open. And so that's what he's kind of looking for right now. And that's what that Reaper is definitely going to help him out with. And so he's got a second Reaper on the way, making sure that, I mean, he's putting a little bit of pressure on the Zerg. The concern is if you're putting on too much pressure with these Reapers, you might force a Roach Bane all in. You might force that 2-base all-in pressure from your Zerg opponent. And so now that he sees that the Queen is out, he's going to micro just a little bit, get that Reaper back so that he doesn't lose it. If this Queen is smart, it's going to try and focus down the weakened Reaper just because you want that one to die first so that it's not regenerating health as quickly. Because they're going to regenerate health as quickly as Protoss regenerate shields. And you can see right here, he's got the factory going down, and he started with the reactor first. And he's going to switch that factory for the barracks here and start his next couple barracks. And it's pretty standard with the style of build that he's going to go. I believe that the final composition that we agreed on is going to be pretty close to 5 barracks and 2 factories with an early armory and a delayed starport. So we'll see how that all plays out, and we'll see how everything ends up going in the long run. He does lose a Reaper there, unfortunately. A little bit of missed micro there. He should have pulled them both back instead of just trying to micro and turn around. That one little misstep did cost him a Reaper, which is going to delay him just a little bit longer. I mean, it's going to limit his map presence a little bit. And so now he's got enough gas that he should be able to start his tech lab, and with that, he's going to be able to get stim early, and then afterward he's going to be able to switch it up. And he's got Hellions here, so that's just to counter a decent amount of these Zerglings. He doesn't want his opponent to deal too much damage with these Zerglings, and so he's going to deal with those with a little bit of Hellbat pressure. This also limits your Zerg opponent from being on that third base, because you're not going to want to overextend yourself as Zerg without the creep spread to handle it. And right now, he's got the Roach Warren, but he only has a few Zerglings, and he doesn't have any Roaches on the way yet. He does have the lair on the way, so he's going to be able to go for that. He's got the evolution chamber. He's got the gases on the natural going. He doesn't have this second natural on the main base. So we'll see how long it takes him to get that one saturated up. Right now, once he's done with these Hellions, he needs to go ahead and go for the Widow Mines. Widow Mines are going to help protect him against any sort of all-in pressure, especially if these Roaches... You can see that there are 2 Roaches on the way. If this ends up being a Roach Bane all-in, which nothing signifies that it's going to be, just because there's no Baneling nest. But if that were to become a Baneling nest, he could go for the Widow Mines, plant the Widow Mines out here, and hopefully those Widow Mines will snipe out the Banelings, because the Banelings are the big thing that the Widow Mines want to hit. You definitely don't want your Widow Mines to land on the Roaches, because the Roaches can tank a decent amount of splash damage. Because if you're looking at it, it's 145 health there. That means that it's about 5 or 6 shots from a Widow Mine splash damage that's going to take out Roaches. And then they're just not as cost effective. So right now there are a decent amount of Zerglings on the field. Should have seen a few more Roaches, but he's probably waiting for that Hydra Den to finish up. We do have the lair tech done. And we have a Baneling nest now, which is a very delayed Baneling nest, so it makes me wonder if he's doing a very delayed Roach Bane all-in, just to keep the Terran on the 2 bases. I'm a little concerned with the timing on that Roach Bane, just because I feel like having the Hydras a little bit earlier would be a little bit more effective for him, but this is going to work out pretty well for Cuddle Bear. And so here we go, we've got 3 Tech Labs. He needs to go ahead and switch. He's got a few too many Tech Labs for this style of build, because what you want is that the Hellion and the Widow Mine, as opposed to... Okay, and let's see, let's count all the barracks. We've got 5 racks going right here. That's pretty typical for what he wants. He wants that armory just a little bit earlier next time. That's the kind of thing that he's looking for, because this factory right here, not producing anything, and he's not able to produce any of his Hellbats right now. So if he could have switched the barracks and the factory early, so that he could have gotten Blue Flame research going, as opposed to having nothing produced right now. So this Blue Flame is a little bit slower because he didn't switch the factory and the barracks right there. He could have produced a few more Marines off that reactor barracks, and then had a Tech Lab, and then produced a Widow Mine or 2. And the Widow Mines are really important for that kind of thing, and there's a huge engagement over here that I am totally missing out on, because it's a bunch of Zerglings and Roaches that are going to try and push this back, because this is a bunch of Marines and Hellions, and they're pretty much going to get cleaned up, but this has delayed this third base quite a significant amount. All those Zerglings have gone away, which has delayed the Baneling nest, which honestly, I don't know if Cuddle Bear even knows about. It looks like he does not. So not knowing about that, he's a little bit lucky that he got rid of all those Zerglings. That's a really good move by him, whether he knows it or not. Pretty good creep spread by OSE right now. Doing a really good job there, trying to keep his map presence as well as he can, just so that he's got really good map vision. Right now he doesn't have a whole lot of map control, though. And so right now we've got all 3 types of upgrades going for OSE. And still a lot of Roaches on the map, not taking a whole lot of damage because there aren't as many Marauders on that side of the map quite yet. So now we've got the Hellbats going down, and those are going to counter pretty much all the Zerglings in one fell swoop. And that'll be pretty nice. I need to get on these larva injects over here by OSE. And Arius saying, yes, he needs some engineering base. He definitely does, especially with this much bio going down. He's going to go ahead and drop that third base, which I think is a pretty good move right now. He can secure it. And this is a delayed starport, so this is definitely something that we were talking about, delaying that starport. And now he's finally going for that extra reactor, because now he realizes that he needs the Widow Mines and the extra Hellbats. So again, this is a new build to him. He's used to having more Tech Labs than this, but this is basically the final composition that we discussed. So it's 5 barracks, 2 factories, and a starport in here. It's all going to be scouted right here by OSE. He knows what's going on. He knows there's an abandoned Tech Lab here. And the Marines are going to try as hard as they can, but OSE's seen everything except for the army. He doesn't know what the composition is until like right now, and if he's not looking at that side of the map, let's see if we can get him. He's not looking at that side of the map, but he... Oh, yep. So now he does see that his opponent is coming in, and so we're going to look at I Am Cuddle Bear going, and you can see that those Marauders are just going to tank out some of those Roaches quite a bit, and now Blue Flame kicking in, doing a ton of damage to all the banelings. And you can see that with this kind of what this position is put OSE in, there was a lot of Hellion pressure earlier, and a lot of Zergling. There was a lot of Hellion pressure early and a lot of Marine pressure early, and that kind of forced him to go into the Marauders to counter, or the Roaches. My mistake. I can't talk today. I'm so sorry, but it forced him to go into the Roaches to defend himself. And now that he's stuck on this Roach tech, now the Marauders are just going to do all the damage in the world. And even without a bunch of starports going, even without very many medevacs, you can see how damaging this army is, even without upgrades. And I mean, you can see that OSE had all the upgrades going. Even with all these upgrades going, he's got the upgrade advantage, he's got the macro advantage. But OSE pretty much out of this right now because he can't counter the composition. So what this has led him to do, because Cuddlebear did the early aggression with the Hellions, with the Marines, that forced his opponent to go a tech path that Cuddlebear wanted him to go into. Because Cuddlebear's composition wasn't that early game composition. He was forcing his opponent to go for a composition that he knew he would be strong against in the late game. And so now we're in the late mid game, and now we have Hellbats, which, accompanied by the medevacs, are going to be really strong when dropped behind when Hydra start to come out. And although Banelings do have Baneling speed, they're going to be taken out by Widow Mines if we get any Widow Mine production later on. And so now I Am Cuddlebear is going to be able to read this. If there's a ton of Banelings being morphed, does he need to have some Widow Mine support? He's already got the Marauders, which counter the Banelings pretty well. And now that he's in basically this Hellbat Marauder composition, he can pretty much get out of it as quickly as he wants because he's got all these factories and he's going to be able to produce Marines as quickly as possible. He's already got the factories here, so Mutas, if Mutas start kicking in, 3 Widow Mines clustered up really tight are going to be able to protect most of his bases fairly effectively, and accompanied by more Marine production, he's going to have pretty much everything covered. So a lot of this covers a lot of different things that typical Zerg are going for right now, and that's why this build is going to be fairly effective, and so, or at least that's our hope. And so now you can see that all those Banelings are detonating extremely well against those Hellbats, but right now there's just such a big amount of production for I'm Cuddlebear that I don't think that OSE is going to be able to keep up with this. I'm stumbling over all my words because I don't have juicy juice yet. And so OSE is asking for a rematch, seeing if I'm Cuddlebear wants to go for that kind of thing. I'm sure they're going to rematch so that he can practice this build a little bit, because there were just a few missteps, like this extra tech lab. You can see that he's able to produce over most of these pretty effectively. His macro slipped a little bit while he was trying to learn this, but it's a brand new build to him. So he's trying to get that figured out. He's going to all in with all of his SCVs, so that's going to be pretty funny. And you can see that there are a few extra barracks on here. He could put some reactors on these and make sure that he's got some sort of Marine production backup later. And so now he's pretty much mined out over here, and then he's just dropping all of his mules over here to try and supplement his mineral income. And right now he could even take a 4th base if he wanted to. He's got pretty good control of this game right now, because if you look at the army value right now tells a decent amount of the story. Like the Zerg, yes, it's a lot of mineral heavy army, but that mineral heavy army is all basically Zerglings and Hydras, which are really weak to Hellbats. And right now, especially with the support of these SCVs that are rolling in, because why not? They're going to tank a lot of Baneling shots. I think right now they're just kind of messing around. And so we'll just watch this happen. And you can see that there's a bit of an advantage here. There's definitely a huge supply lead. And a lot of this extra cost right here is in the Banelings, because Banelings are a lot more expensive than anybody really wants to admit. And so they're all the Banelings, and you can see that there's a huge drop in supply right there. And that's really exactly what Cuddlebear wanted. He wanted those to detonate on the SCVs, so it took him out. And now, right now, you can see that it detonated on a lot of those Marauders, and that's exactly what he wants there. Took out a few of the Hellbats right there, and now they're just kind of toying around with each other, because you can see right here that Cuddlebear's got this. He's got the macro advantage. He's got enough to remax everything. This game's over. They're just going to have a little bit of fun with it. But there you go. That's the new build that we're working on at the moment. And so that's basically 3 tech labs, 2 reactored factories for your final composition, with reactored starport and 2 reactored factories. You're going to build the tech lab barracks first. You're going to go ahead and get stim initially, and then you're going to switch the 2. and make sure that you've got a your Blue Flame upgrade, because Blue Flame is really powerful. No matter what, it takes them back to what they were before the patch, and then you can add on barracks as you need them, and add on more starport. Well, you probably shouldn't need more starports, but you can add on more medevacs as you need them, because they're pretty much going to be able to heal the army. So the reason that you start with the reactor here is because any sort of Roach Bane all in, you're going to be able to launch some Widow Mines right here, built out of your reactored factory. It's basically a good delayed read tactic. It's a responsive, reactive type of play from Terran. Sort of biomech, a little bit. I'd consider it more bio, because there's not a whole lot that can't be healed by medevacs, because you've got the Hellbats that can be healed by the medevacs, so it's still a bio-style play. Just because of that. Even though some of it comes out of the factories, now the Zerglings are coming out, and again, these guys are toying around. The game was over, so, I mean, it's 2 base versus essentially, well, it's 1 base versus essentially 2 base going on right now. This is pretty well mined out, and that's totally mined out. He could have launched that 4th base a long time ago, but really what's going to happen is that OSE is going to run out of production. Zerglings aren't going to stand up to the Hellbats, and that's just how it's going to end. He just needs to keep going on these Hellbats, and maybe a few Widow Mines would be nice to be tagged in there. Right now we're just kind of filling time to make sure that we've got the whole game in there, so that everybody can see how well this played out. Even with a little bit of toying around, you can see that he's made a few mistakes, and he's been able to hold on to this lead pretty effectively. Right now he's floating a decent amount of gas, but I mean, even with that, it's not going to hurt him too much. I think this is going to need to be refined still, but I mean, it's still a pretty powerful build. As you can see, he hit a really, really strong timing there. And with the Hellbat support and everything else, there's the GG. And I hope everybody enjoyed. This is DKG's Avos, signing out for now.